about water and urban places. This is Ideanthro.
On episode 216, we showed you some bioretention research, but it had some gaps. Today, we're going to try and go and fill one of them.
The gap was water holding capacity. See, the original hypothesis of the research was that plants aren't doing well in bioretention systems because the filter media is not very hospitable. And further to that a lack of organic matter might be one of the reasons why it's not. The potential reason for that is that organic matter contributes to water holding capacity. So, if you want to have a good look at why plants might be failing in bioretention systems with respect to inhospitable filter media, you need to look at water holding capacity.
So what's the reason we didn't get any results last time round? There's a few. Time, some equipment failures, there were a few. So this time round, I'm coming back with a simpler method. In fact, a really basic method, a far less robust method. But hey, you know what? I'll take a simple method that gives me some results versus a more robust method that 2 years later I've got nothing from, or nearly nothing from. So what are we going to do? Well, today I am visiting 5 sites. I'm going to come out to each. I'm going to take 6 samples from each site. We're going to go near the center of the systems. That previous research, the samples were taken near the inlet, near the far end of the system, away from the inlets. Today, I'm not going to muck up, I'm not going to risk interfering with those other sample sites. I'm going to the center of the system. I'm going to take 6 samples. When you're trying to figure out how much water is available to plants in a given soil, there's 2 measurements that you need. To understand this, you need to understand how water moves through soil and what becomes available to plants. So when a soil gets filled up with water, that water is held onto the soil, tightly, or sometimes loosely, or mixtures thereof. And when water begins to drain out of the soil, it is the stuff that's held more loosely that leaves first. Now whether that's by evapotranspiration, whether that's by infiltration, whether that is via uptake by the plants, it's the looser stuff that leaves first, and it's the more tightly bound stuff that's left at the end. Now plants remove water from soil by applying suction to it to pull that water out, but plants can only apply so much suction. There's a point above which some water is just held too tightly in a soil that they can't remove it. That's why sometimes you can find in really clayey soils, they can be completely waterlogged, but the plants can't access it because clays hold onto the water so tightly. So to understand what water is available to plants, you need to understand the difference between what's called field capacity and wilting point. Field capacity is how much water the soil can hold when anything that's just going to drain through it naturally under gravity is gone, and we're left with just what it can hold. So that's what you'll find just a couple of days after rainfall, and everything that's going to leave by gravity is gone, and then we've got left the bulk of what the soil can actually hold on to. Wilting point is when we've lost a whole bunch of that water, and it's the amount of pressure, it's the amount of water in the soil at the amount of pressure that plants can no longer extract any more from it. So there is still water in the soil, but the plants can't get to it. So we have no water, we have wilting point, we have field capacity. And it's the amount of water between wilting point and field capacity that is plant available moisture. So, to measure that, we need a measurement of wilting point and a field capacity. The good news for me is that in the original 2015 research, we did get some measurements of wilting point in these soils. So I've got a little bit of data, admittedly, not from the samples that I'm collecting today, but I'll deal with what I can deal with. So we've got some measurements of that. So what I'm doing is collecting data on field capacity. So to do that, I've got these samples here, and critically, today is approximately 2 days after rainfall. So the proper way to do this, the scientifically rigorous way to do this, is to collect samples, wet them up in the lab, put them in a special machine that applies appropriate amounts of suction to them. So if you're doing wilting point, the amount of suction equivalent to wilting point. If you're doing field capacity, the amount of suction equivalent to field capacity. You'd apply that suction, you'd weigh your sample, you dry it, you weigh it again, and you got a calculation of how much water was in that sample. The problem is, we've had some dramas with the equipment over the years, haven't been able to make it work on a doable, feasible, regular basis. So I'm using a slightly rough and ready measurement of field capacity. And what that means is, come out about 2 days after rainfall, just long enough for any water that's going to drain away via gravity to go, but not so long that you've lost heaps via evapotranspiration. Come out, grab your samples, simply, I'm going to take them home, I'm going to weigh them, I'm going to dry them, and I'm going to weigh them again. And that should give me a rough indication of field capacity. Well, this was unexpected. This site, this is Pendragon, this is the second site. This did not look like this last time I came here. It had way more plants, there was a sediment crust on the surface. Clearly someone has come in, cleaned this up, and replanted to some degree, but it's still got sediment on the surface and it's not got that many plants. Critically though, I dug down, I found what is the existing, or the original, I should say, filter media, and we've sampled from that.
So what did we find? A conundrum, that's what. I'll try and explain with the help of a few graphs. The first one is the 5 sites and their organic matter contents. What you'll see here is 3 of the sites are shown in green. That means that I think they have generally happier, healthier vegetative communities. And 2 of the sites are in orange. They're the sites where the plants, in my opinion, have struggled over time. And what you see here is those 2 sites where they're struggling, the organic matter contents are lower, and the other 3 sites, the organic matter contents are higher. Now they're not all consistently the same height, but they are higher. This is data, these are results that we talked about back in episode 216. Now, if organic matter has a relationship, as generally speaking we know it does, organic matter helps with water holding capacity and the ability for soils to store water, then we might reasonably expect that if we layer, say, the moisture content at field capacity over the top of this graph, that we might get a similar relationship. And in fact, if we skip forward here, that's roughly what happens. So we've now got the purple dots on the screen. They are percentage moisture at field capacity. So you're going, okay, there seems to be a relationship here. Okay, admittedly the Hoyland Street dot doesn't quite sit there, and the Tilly dot's a little bit low, but the Wollombilly dot's up where you'd expect it to be, and the Pendragon and the Outlook ones are down where you'd think. So you're going, okay, maybe there is something here. Maybe some of the explanatory nature of this, the amount of water that's available in these soils, correlates with organic matter. There is more available in the sites where I feel that the plants are healthier. This feels like it might be supporting the hypothesis. But the conundrum, there's a twist in the tail. Because what I showed you there first was moisture at field capacity. But we said earlier, it's not moisture at field capacity that's really important. That says how much water each of those soils can hold on to. But from a plant's point of view, it's how much water is available to the plant that matters. How much water can it get at? And that's the difference between field capacity, moisture at field capacity, and moisture at wilting point. So this next slide here is the percent moisture available to the plants. And look, suddenly the pattern doesn't hold true at all. We've still got Wollombilly, this one site that's got the highest organic matter and has the highest available water standing out on its own. But then interestingly, all 4 of the other sites, regardless of whether I feel the plants are happier or otherwise, they're all knocking around at essentially 4% available water. So what does this all mean? Well, the first thing to keep in mind here is of course the fact that I've got this data from 2 different sets of soil samples. The wilting point data came from soil samples taken in 2015, and field capacity data came from soil samples that I collected just recently in 2017. And what's more, the field capacity methodology that I used was a rough and ready one. But let's put that aside for a moment. Let's just entertain the possibility that it's not error in the methodology that's caused this to happen. Let's have a think about what this actually tells us. Or should I say, might tell us. What this tells us is there might be more to this story than just available water. It does look like there's this relationship between organic matter and healthier vegetation in bioretention systems, but maybe it's not only available water that the organic matter is contributing to. Maybe it's not even that at all, because organic matter does other good things for soil. So if this relationship's there, maybe it's not just about available water. Having said that though, think about the numbers there. The available water contents in these sites were either in the range of 4 to 4.5%, and then we had the one outlier up at 8% for Bowen Hill. Even the 8% is a pretty low measurement of available water in these soils. So while this might not be able to explain, if it's not just data error, right? Even if it's not just data error, while this might not be able to explain the difference in the health of vegetation between these 5 different sites, what it should alert us to is the fact that even in the sites where the plants are pretty healthy, the amount of available water is pretty low. And it really shouldn't be a surprise if plants are getting stressed out in these sites. So that's what I'm taking away from this for now. If nothing else, this has really whetted my interest, because this has said, these bits of research, the bits that we talked about back in episode 216, the bits that we've found out here, what this is really saying to me is, look, it does look like there's a relationship between organic matter and plant health, but it's not a straightforward available water relationship. I mean, I never thought it was completely straightforward, but I thought that available water was going to be a big player in this, but it might not be that straightforward. And so really this has just whetted my appetite for more research and more data on this. What this is really crying out for, and if you want to do this, or if you want to arrange for this to be done, because frankly it'll cost a little bit of money but not a lot, what this is crying out for is a proper study to get one lot of samples and to do both the field capacity and the wilting point numbers of one set of samples for a bunch of sites across a spectrum of vegetation healths with a less subjective assessment of vegetation than I have made, and to do this properly and robustly and look at it. Because the more I dig into it in these slightly haphazard and less robust ways, the more interesting this gets. And that's the episode. Thank you for tuning in. One last comment. No, that's it. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Before you go, our best episodes come from your questions. This knowledge base, these discussions that are Ideanthro improve with your contribution. So if there's a topic, an idea, a concept that you would like us to explore, come and ask us. You know where to find us. www.ideanthro.com/contact. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and that place you get your good podcasts from. You know where to find us. We look forward to hearing from you. We'll see you soon.